Now that Phoenix has national was taking their licks, it's by far the Clippers. Though now, albeit without Kristaps Porzingis and that injury he suffered, though, get over the playoff hump. You're able to knock them. Oh my goodness, here we go again. And I think you need your best guy out there again. With Jazz upper brass for this house of COVID, he's covering up his eye after he's a home. That, guys, is the great 25 years. Finally, for one game. But John Morant is the truth. I am telling you, fellas. "132 days later, I'll take that over 269 days without live sporting events." With that in mind, everybody, a pleasant good evening and welcome back inside of a sports lounge for a special edition of a year in review, recapping a season unlike any other. As always, folks, yours truly, Callan McClurg, back with you inside of the MI6 Sports Network after 132 days of being away, as mentioned with that work hiatus. We are back and better than ever and ready to go with you folks here for the remaining part of the year and over the course of the next several months. With that, folks, as mentioned, Callan McClurg, yours truly, back with you inside of the home studios in San Diego, California. And again, after 132 days of being away, officially back with you on the Sports Lounge, as we have said, though, folks, with of course, that lengthy break of me finishing off the remaining part of the 2021 sports season, as, of course, the American Hockey League season, along with the colleges, have finally come to a close with me. And now we can I can at least sit back and kind of tell you about the first-hand experience of going back to work during the course of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and kind of rehash, though, where we actually were, though, about a year or so ago and stuff of that nature. But more so, folks, again, I want to, say thank you to everyone out there for, who was perhaps checked in with me over the past several months about how things were going. Obviously, it was tough to not be able to be with you folks here on WST or on the night shift or any other program, essentially, here on MI6 ever since I left in January, on January 13th of this year. And to be able to come back, though, again, folks, as a reminder, but more so helping out here in a different way due to the nature right now, again, of kind of easing myself back into the podcast business. But again, once, in fact, September does roll around, we will, of course, be going back into somewhat of a hiatus break, though I won't be able to be with you on most of the programs, only be able to do my solo program, of course, the Sports Lounge, when the schedule will allow me come Labor Day weekend, when, in fact, the season does, in fact, resume and we get underway for the 2021 and 2022 seasons. But, of course, everybody, let's light up that chat box tonight. Again, we're going to be here for at least the next hour and a half, hanging out, catching up again after a long time of being away. And without me talking to a live audience, at least on the web, again, of course, we'll have more about that, about how, in fact, games were for me over the course of the past year. But again, folks, questions, comments, concerns, again, light up that live chat box. And again, we'll do our absolute best to read that commentary live on the air as time does, in fact, go on. I do, folks, want to open up, though, with a brief monologue, a little bit of a brief introductory segment here, though. And again, say thank you once more to all the folks out there who, again, had sent their, either texted, called, Facebooked, or asked how things were going, though. While I was, in fact, away from MI6, I was able to catch a good chunk of the programs that really was not able to, take a day and come and join a program like I probably had planned before I made the announcement to go on that hiatus break, though. But again, the games, of course, matter, though. But as well with the ever-changing influence of events, though, with the scheduling, again, that there may have been days where games could have been moved ahead, moved basically because of COVID issues. But again, I'll have all about that, folks, in the whole year, as in fact this season does in fact go, or at least this program does in fact go on. But again, folks, feel free to fire away in that live chat box. And if you have questions about the season or experiences or anything you want to throw my way, again, put them in the live chat box. We'll again do our absolute best to read that commentary live on the air, as in fact our program does in fact go on here. Just wanted to see a few things real quick and see how things were going. So I apologize for the black screen right there. And of course, Christy Wilson chimes in to say, Cal, nice to have you back, and Christy, I'll say that again. And I know I made my first appearance on the network in for a full show, minus the NFL draft party I kind of crashed but helped out with, though, is that is what I'll be doing, though, folks, to kind of maybe explain that a little bit better about this. What's this reduced role you're talking about? The only programs, folks, you'll see me in charge of hosting is this one, of course, my solo hosted program, the Sports Lounge, and the Night Shift on the weekends, plus, of course, the Marvel Dudes podcast with myself and John Alcorn. But we're taking the Sunday off as John is, in fact, moving to a new residence, so he'll be a little bit in and out over the course of the week. So we're taking the week off to actually prepare for an upcoming television series debuting next week. But that's more so the role, though, folks. I'll also be in charge, though, of scheduling programming in regards to getting the program scheduled, getting them all looking nice with the graphics and stuff like that. But also, I'll be serving, though, more of an analyst role because I cannot fully commit to hosting all these programs, especially once, in fact, August comes. I go on vacation in August, plus, of course, the season getting back underway in September. So, again, my hands are going to be extremely tied, though, as, in fact, time does move on here today. But, folks, I do want to get to a very big announcement, as, in fact, that the Sports Lounge has its soft reopening here tonight on the MI6 Sports Network, folks. I'm super ecstatic, folks, to let you know that during the time I was away, I began reaching out to prospective guests to join the lounge on Tuesday nights. And, obviously, we've been I think our good man John Alcorn knows well, though, that sometimes you may send off that email and you probably don't hear back, though. But, folks, I am extremely excited, extremely privileged, though, to announce our first ever guest that will join the Sports Lounge coming your way in just over 3 weeks, folks. But that is Haley Skamura of the USA Women's National Ice Hockey Team is going to join the Sports Lounge June 15th at 8 o'clock Pacific time. Haley, of course, is a forward right now, playing in the PWHPA, one of the very few women's hockey leagues being played right now. And also Haley's father, Peter, played for the Washington Capitals. So we'll be able to get a lot of insight from Haley about her career with her dad's career, plus her playing with Team USA, but also about the ongoing movements being done by her in the PWHPA to officially try to get a unified women's hockey league that will pay them fair salaries, much like the USA Women's National Soccer Team. Plus, we'll talk about the 2018 Olympics and also about the 2019 IIHF World Championships. And also, we'll talk about that 2020 rivalry series game between Team USA and Canada that Haley was a part of at Honda Center in Anaheim, California, that I was at, but also was the highest attended women's hockey home game for the U.S. national team. So again, folks, Haley Skamura of the U.S. Women's National Hockey Team joins the lounge. Our first ever guest will come your way, folks, on June 15th at 8 p.m. right here on the MI6 Sports Network. Shouting out the aforementioned John Alcorn, who says, the man, the myth, the McClurg is back. I love the tagline. He says, totally understand as well about trying to get those guests on. But once more, folks, Haley Skamura, USA Women's National Hockey Team, the PWHPA, will join us, as mentioned, on June 15th, right here on the lounge at 8 o'clock in the evening Pacific time here on the MI6 Sports Network. With that, folks, obviously this is a soft opening for the lounge tonight. Again, we really weren't expecting to be back on the air this early in, at least this early. And I know I had targeted June 2nd to kind of, or at least June 1st to get the lounge back open. But with this now being a free week and my season officially being over, I thought to myself, though, because I've written about this on the MI6 Sports Network website and a lot of times, though, too, on Instagram. And I thought, let's actually do it more in a way of where I can, verbally tell you how things went, though, but also I think to let you ask questions, though, because I'm sure, though, that a lot of you folks out there have really wondered, though, about how, in fact, it was to be one of the very few people allowed attendance into live sporting events, but with no one else in the building, minus the teams, the officials, your coworkers, and the working media. So we're going to be diving into that, folks, as time does go on. But I do, though, of course, want to kind of, take you back, though, to how, in fact, though, things began or how things went, dating back, of course, to March 11th of last year, where, again, folks, as I have said several times, though, but that is a day, though, that anybody out there that works in live events, sports, concerts, family shows, any type of live entertainment that brings a crowd to a event, that is a day that is long going to be remembered for all the wrong reasons, because I think that we all remember where we were, though, when we kind of heard the rumblings about, the world kind of hitting the pause button or hitting the stop button to get this pandemic whatever you believe in about it under control. And, I'll never forget it though. And like I've said those several times, but again, this is just a rehash about how we kind of got to this spot though, for me in my career. Plus, of course, those of us that work in sports though. But of course, with that day though, with May 11th or March 11th though, was in the middle of what was going to be at that time a pretty insane week of work, because around that time though, everything was being played. College sports were going on. Hockey, indoor soccer, pro lacrosse was going on. And it was a week, though, that I think minus one day out of that week, I was doing a event, whether it was writing for the lacrosse team, announcing a soccer game, announcing a Gulls game, or a college game. And, the day, of course, got up to a great start, though. I know I've said her name several thousand times on here, but of course I can't, not say, DJ Shauna Nichols' name enough. Of course, she's the in-house DJ for the Milwaukee Bucks and has become a very great colleague and a great friend of mine who did a lot of amazing work in the NBA bubble a few months later, and also recently was doing work as well with the NCAA Final Four for the women's basketball tournament. But that day, though, that morning, that afternoon, though, I was actually a guest on her podcast actually talking about my career. And, of course, that was our first time getting a chance to talk to each other in about a year or so. Again, we both are extremely, extremely busy. So like my day got up to a great start. I got a chance to talk about my career with a great friend, a great colleague, and I was off to work the USD baseball game that night versus Cal Baptist University. But though there was this, like small sense of uneasiness. And I think that anyone working at that time kind of knew, okay, this is going on right now, but it really hasn't hit hard yet. Nothing really bad has happened yet. So when I got to work that day at Fowler Park at USD, there was just this sense of uneasiness. And the uneasiness really didn't really hit me hard until I got to campus that day and began to look around from my press box perch into the seating bowl, where again, recently it's not a sellout crowd. There's a decent crowd though that comes to USD baseball games. But that day though, it was basically bare, it was basically empty. And I thought, well, the weather's pretty bad. It was kind of gloomy, overcast. There may have been some sprinkles in the forecast, so no one's coming out because of the weather. But that was what I was saying in my head, though. But then the uneasiness, the emptiness, and then the pure stillness, though, of the atmosphere of no one really being there and the game progressing on was just like, this is a very weird environment. And then obviously that's when things get blown out of proportion. So if anyone out there knows me, I really can't sit still for a while. I kind of have to get up after a while and, stretch out the body, get the legs going and stuff like that. So at USD in our baseball press box, we have a TV that's usually turned on to a game. Normally watch the Padre games in there. So people that are, getting up during the inning breaks can get up and see how they're doing, stuff like that. But one of the innings I got up, though, is kind of when things began to turn sour. One of the innings I got up, though, this game was still 0-0, I want to say in the fourth inning or fifth inning, about midway through, 0-0 ball game. And by the time I had gotten up and went to the television, it was on ESPN. That was when I saw the first breaking news story bulletin flash across the screen saying that they had interrupted their coverage that night. I believe they were covering a couple of NBA games that night. And I remember that they had interrupted SportsCenter and said, breaking news, we have a developing story from Oklahoma City. And I believe it was Sergio Dip, who was reporting from the locker room area at Chesapeake Energy Arena in Oklahoma City. And I'll never forget that Sergio, or the reporter covering that game between the Jazz and Thunder that night, was talking in a very stressed, but a very fast demeanor. Now, I know I'm guilty of doing that myself. I wholeheartedly admit to doing that myself. But the frantic voice tone, and then hearing him say, we just got a report from the Jazz that Rudy Gobert has tested positive for coronavirus, and that the Jazz have been told to quarantine in the locker room. And that was when the delay began, though. And then we also heard the Thunder PA announcer say that due to unforeseen circumstances, that this game has been postponed. And then you saw everybody leave the building. Then as you kind of move a little bit later on within that half an hour, I think it was Ryan Ruocco calling the Mavericks game in Dallas with Hubie Brown. And Ryan kind of stopped calling the game and said, we've just heard the reports coming out of Oklahoma City. And they cut to Mark Cuban sitting on the sidelines. And Mark had this extremely stunned and shocked and total disbelief look on his face of like, when I saw Mark Cuban's reaction, I thought, here it comes. Like, this is where it's going to be ending. And as the game went on, though, folks, and, I've been in the industry for 12 years, and I will fully admit right here and right now that this was the first time in my career, despite games that maybe were blowouts, but this was the first true time I will ever admit in my 12 years of being a sports broadcaster that I mentally said, I don't care about the game, I'm checked out. Because right then and there, I knew that it was going to be a stressful night and a stressful couple of days to kind of figure out, for me, what was going to happen. Because, there were reports coming out that night, that day, that there may have been chances of the NHL playing games in certain markets with no fans. And obviously, for me, it was, okay, I've got to get both colleges under control. I got to get hockey under control, soccer under control, and lacrosse under control. So from that point forward, though, it was more so scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through my email inbox, and kind of beginning to open those communication lines with bosses, for example, at PLNU, with the Gulls, with the Soccers, even with the Seals in their PR department. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's going to come crashing down. And sure enough, it did. But I don't think it really, got too far out of control until you heard that the Pelicans-Kings game in Sacramento was also going to be postponed. That was where also, things really, got super, blown out of proportion, and like, here it comes. Especially in my case, though, as I think anyone that works in the industry knows, when you cover so many local teams, though, or you work for so many different organizations, you're just thinking to yourself, like, what in the world is going on? When I pause real quick and say what's up to my good guy, David Frecker, he says, Cal, I agree. He was working the NCAA basketball conference tournament. We were told at halftime that the game would be stopped and to go home. And, Dave, I will say this too. I was really wondering if that was going to happen with the USD game I was working at. Now, at the same time, though, there was nothing really going on in San Diego at that time, though. But I still was, like, at concern level, Dave, I totally agree, though, my man, that's where things, just kind of in a way went, haywire and stuff of that nature. I want to say what's up to my good man, Adam Barber, joining us from the Coast to Coast Network. Folks can check those guys out. Sports, entertainment, you name it, they got your bases covered over on Coast to Coast. Adam, good to see you, my man. Thanks for dropping by and checking into the lounge here tonight. But I really don't think, though, folks, that for me at least, that things did not really, nothing really, got set in stone until you kind of saw that the other NBA game had gotten postponed and that things were really starting to get really out of control. David also agrees. He says, yes, the Strike Force, our local indoor pro football team, was about to have our first home game of the year, and they called it off the night before the game for the Strike Force, who I believe they were supposed to play Oakland, or I think it was Tucson. They were supposed to play that Sunday. Now, with the game, though, folks, obviously USD did win the game 2-0. But as I said, though, that was the first time ever I said, you know what? In certain situations, the value of life and the value of us being on this earth outweighs your team winning and losing, or you going to work, a sporting event, or you going to a concert. That sometimes, again, whatever you want to believe or not, though, that the value of life outweighs wins and losses, games, concerts, festivals. In that moment, that was my mindset. Like, that's what I was thinking that whole time with me mentally checking out of that ball game and stuff like that. But as the evening went on, though, and as I alluded to, though, a bit earlier on about how, in fact, it became, okay, got to get all these things in line, though. Literally that next day was just spent trying to figure out what was going on in regards to, okay, who's going to play, who's not going to play, who's going to stop operation. And literally, I think the next day was when everybody basically said, we're stopping. We're not going to be able to move forward with this. So obviously, the Gulls stopped, the soccer stopped, Seals stopped, everybody stopped. But the day after, like basically the day after tomorrow, basically, of how March 12th was, though, was basically just sitting how I am right now in front of my computer desk in my bedroom and sending off emails and phone calls and just trying to find out what's going on here. How we doing? Is everything okay? And just trying to make sure that things were going great and still were going okay, though. And then obviously, you find out that things were going to be stopping operation. And much like a lot of you out there, I'm not immune to having feelings or having my heart broken over things, whether it's bad breakups or whether it's, failed relationships, or it's in this case, not being able to do what you love doing the most, though. And I think a lot of you out there agree. And I remember, I think I took a poll on my Instagram story with a bunch of my friends who are viewing the program, and for that matter, anyone out there that follows me across the web, though. I remember asking, I want to say in late May, around this time last year, maybe even in early June, though, how were you coping with the whole pandemic, from March into April and May? And for 2 months straight, I think I'd gone to my local convenience store and either every weekend or every other weekend had bought a 3-pack or a 6-pack of beer and just drowned my sorrows over the course of the week, every night in beer. And I wasn't proud of it, still am not proud of it, though. But that was just, I think, how a lot of us were able to cope with the stress, the anxiety, the depression, hitting that low point of your life, or hitting a low point. Like a lot of us out there did hit low points over the course of those 3 months, though. And for that matter, even in regards to just in general, about from March through the entire course of the whole year last year, in regards to, how do you find ways to cope? How do you, still try to, do something outside, but do it safely without anyone coming around you, whether it's 6 feet or staying 20 feet away from somebody? That was, I think, a very big hurdle that a lot of us had to jump over over the course of those past several months. But then I will say, though, that, along the way, though, some blessings in disguise do come along, though. I will agree, though, that Christy agrees, though, that life in general to her just seemed to stop. And I think it was everything in regards to, the week, the days, the day after, the weeks after, it was hard. And David agrees, though, by saying Callan is keeping it 100, and definitely remember about the Instagram poll that I had run. And Christy, I share your same sentiments, though, my friend. I remember having very big moments of frustration and also crying on the occasion. It was extremely hard. And, that again, I mean, that basically was how I coped, every night was, either Zoom chatting with my friends from out of state who are women's basketball fans, or talking to friends on the phone or via Zoom or FaceTime, and, having like virtual happy hour like we did for, those several months last year. I mean, that's basically how I coped over the course of those several months. But Christy, I share those sentiments for sure, though. But I will say that probably 2 weeks, I think, after the entire shutdown first began, though, while I know that a lot of us out there agree, though, that there was absolutely no positives to look forward to in 2020 because of the shutdown and not being able to go places and stuff like that. But along the way, though, there's plenty of blessings in disguise, though. And I have to credit Bo Doran, DJ Mancat, who began the Quarantine Network. Bo had a very, rigorous idea late March of last year to bring all of his friends together who were out of work, to bring them together into a Facebook group and essentially become like Fox News or CNN and have people do live stream broadcasts on a 24-hour platform just to kind of keep themselves sane and to, reach a new audience. So Bo reached out to me to be his sports guy. And I will say that was probably the best time I had, which also kind of led me back down the road into getting back into podcasting. I did a women's basketball podcast for the WNBA and women's college basketball for about 5 years, but I had to stop, though, because of the mounting toll from my work schedule, trying to keep that podcast going. And I wasn't able to fulfill the obligations to keep the podcast going. But that TQN, though, brought me back, though, to kind of where I got my start, though. And it was great, though, to be a part of that family and a part of that community, though, again, where Bo had this, great idea to bring, friends of his, colleagues of his, though, who were out of work because of COVID, and to bring them into this group, though, and let them live stream for half an hour, 15 minutes, or an hour. But also that, I said this a lot during my time there, though, that there was always a program on that channel that you could find that you would enjoy, whether it was me doing sports or my two go-to guys, Ron and Tyler, with their sports program in the evenings, whether it was movie discussion, TV show discussion, that there was something out there for you to enjoy, while I think getting your mind off of what was going on outside your house for that half an hour time that we were on, that hour time we were on, or however long that we were on, though. And I was able to meet so many great people via TQN, who I cannot wait to eventually get together with and enjoy a cold one with sooner than later, hopefully. A lot of them who live here locally in San Diego. So, I mean, I think cannot say enough great things, though, about the Quarantine Network, which, again, basically, like a lot of you out there, was a way for us to kind of get our minds off of what was going on, though, but also, again, meet some new people. But also, I think, though, tune in and watch some people do what they do, whether it's stand-up comedy, whether it's movies or talking movies or TV shows and sharing discussion about that, cooking, bartending, gardening, you name it. Like I said, though, that network basically had a program that you would find that you would fall in love with. And I do want to shout out my man, Tyler Work, who's tuning in, who says, Callan, I'm glad to see that the lounge has reopened. It is our soft reopening date tonight. Tyler, we're back to regular lounge coverage next Tuesday with us talking all things sports coming up next week at 8 o'clock. And as a reminder, though, folks, as well, big guest alert, Haley Skamura, USA Women's National Hockey Team, drops by June 15th at 8 o'clock in the evening here on inside of the Sports Lounge here on the MI6 Sports Network. But again, that is our first Hallmark guest and first big guest joining us here on the lounge in about, say, 2 to 3 weeks. But then, though, folks, as well, while TQN was still going strong, though, around, I want to say, May, I was approached by a fellow sports writer, my good man, Jonathan Mathis, who he had followed my work, though, over the past several years, though, and basically reached out to me to say, hey, man, I followed your year for a while, and I love what you do, though, with your announcing and your writing. I'd love to see if we can do a podcast. And so John and I began doing a podcast for a bit, though, in around May, maybe June, called McClurg and Mathis. And we both were just basically talking sports, stuff like that. We did it like on a bi-weekly basis. And so John thoroughly enjoyed doing it, though. So John had this brainy idea, though, in late July to start to keep the podcast going. Though we brought actually our good man Isaiah Leung on from MI6 when we were over at a different platform for those few shows, though. And like I said, though, a lot of times here, though, everybody, is that it's kind of hard sometimes to bring strangers together that love sports, though, but have not met in person or met ever, and put them together and try to make them work. It's a lot like a super team in sports, though, that you probably get a lot of these star players, though, and it doesn't work out right away, though. But I could see, though, that once we kind of got things going, though, with our first 3 shows, though, that it was pretty special. We enjoyed obviously doing it, but we also, that we meshed very well, though. Yeah, we would, roast each other for our teams losing, or of course, Isaiah and his gazillion hot takes about, this and that, though. And then Isaiah, I think, had the biggest blessing in disguise, though, and probably the best idea probably that we had over the course of the quarantine, was basically to move our program, Wild Sports Talk, from the old platform. And Isaiah said, let's move it from here and take it to the MI6 Sports Network. And obviously, when we came here, though, folks, to me, though, and I kind of hate to say this part here, though, but basically, though, why I even chose to stay here, even after my time being away, though, for the past couple months, though, is I'm kind of here, though, to be a mentor. And I kind of hate to sound that way, like, here's the, oh my goodness, a 27-year-old guy's just here just to, no, I'm here, though, to help these guys out, and that's when I said, though, when I had my hiatus break, though, that I was still committed to being here, though. And mainly, I think that John Alcorn can attest to this, though, because of how often him and I talk, though, about the industry, though. And that's what I also told them as well on the 1-year anniversary was, yeah, I'm here to have fun and, do this because I do it for a living, though. But I'm also here, though, to help you and mentor you and kind of help you get your feet in, wet in the industry. And I will say, though, that being a part of MI6 has been probably the best highlight of the entire year and a half of there being no events for me to work up until recently. And obviously being here, though, but also helping grow this brand and helping MI6 get to where it is right now with, nearly 4,500 Facebook likes and getting close to 5,000 listens on the Anchor podcast app. This is not about me being self-centered, though, but this is just what I want to help do is help build this, brand and build this network into where we're at right now, and that we have plenty more, glass ceilings to shatter and more things to go and check off the list. And being able to work with Isaiah, to work with John Mappis for a bit, to work with Steve, to work with Martin, and to work with Alcorn, and work with all the crew here. And again, like I said, though, about, that team cohesion, and again, not really knowing each other, but coming here, though, and seeing how this has become such a big highlight, but a big part of my career, though, but also that it's also this brotherhood, as John Alcorn always talks about, the brotherhood environment, but also that this is another family. Isaiah and I got together actually earlier on, I want to say last month, for lunch when he was down here on vacation, and we got a chance to hang out for about an hour or so here in San Diego and talk about, my time with sports, and talk about some sports, and talk about MI6, and talk about how we've been so far. Is that there is a genuine love and support for everyone here, and that all of us want to see each other succeed in life, whether that's in sports, whether that's in, whatever it may in fact be, though, across the board with whatever line of work that we choose to do. And I think that what's so rewarding, though, about being here at least is, again, helping grow the brand, though, and stuff like that. And I mean, I have to give a lot of props, though, to Stephen Wang and Isaiah for essentially letting me kind of help take over, but also kind of help in a way, though, have a bit more of a say about what we do here on this program and on this network, because Steve has been was busy with work, though, and I tried to, when I first came into saying, hey, do what you want to do. I'm just here to kind of be along for the ride, but I can help you out in areas, though, wherever you need it, though. And Steven, I think, has been, along with everyone, though, has been like one of the biggest supporters essentially with this entire thing, though. But how you fans have responded, though, to MI6 in regards to us bringing all of our programs over here, adding programs in, all of our wacky contests that we've done, though, it's been surreal seeing how, in fact, it's been so well received by everybody here on MI6, and for that matter, across the board. Excuse me, with everything going on. I want to get back into some of the comment box real quick. Mr. Ron Davis is checking. It says, where else, though, could Tyler and I get to live out our dream and steal Conan O'Brien's classic ass stamp graphic? Nowhere else but the Quarantine Network. And hopefully, Ron, that the new job is treating you well, my friend. And John Alcorn also says, yep, he has been an amazing help. He also helped make his first trailer for his program, which I did, in fact, did. And Christy agrees that watching MI6 programming has been very fun. And Tyler Work also says, wait a second. Your jersey being retired and hung up in the rafters of Ron's backyard is not the number one highlight? Devastating news. That, though, Tyler, I will say, though, you guys, I think, made it fun, though, to be a part of TQN, though, because we had two shows, though, and I always said, though, on TQN when I was there, that on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you had Sports Talk in the morning with me. You had the very serious, 11-year announcer, doing what he does for a living. Then you had the comic, the comic relief side of it come in, though. But with Ron, with you and Ron, Ron, though, being huge sports fans, though, but, still obviously talking sports, though, but again, letting your friends call in, letting viewers call in, doing a lot of your stuff, though, as well. But my favorite TQN highlight, though, was when we would cross over, when I would come on and do, and come on now, the trade deadline special with, Ron leaving the show, me coming on, you leaving, me coming back on, me leaving, that was great. But of course, I think though that you guys, I think though, deserve a lot of the credit though for what made TQN so fun for me personally, along with everyone else on that network though. But by far though, the fact that you guys went that far though, because when I went back to work though in November, and that you guys had literally retired that jersey, I will be forever indebted to you guys for again how you guys made TQN and made the sports department and all the sports programs that much better. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for sure. Though my man right there. But with that, though, folks, now into, I think, the part, though, that you guys are really looking forward to, maybe, and that is, of course, how, in fact, it was, though, going to games, though, but again, how things were, though, in a COVID-19 world, though. And things began, though, everybody, back in November, when the USD women's basketball team had all of the game day staff come and essentially work a scrimmage game. But it was our chance, though, it was our dress rehearsal, essentially, to calling games and working games without spectators. And basically, folks, what had gone on here with the colleges, at least, was things were extremely, extremely different. With all the restrictions in place at the time, though, folks, we all had to go through a game day a symptom check. We all had to go. We couldn't go in like we usually go in during the course of a regular season. We had to enter the Jenny Craig Pavilion from the weight room area, be screened by a security guard, answer the questionnaire about, symptoms and stuff, then have our temperature checked, and we'd get a wristband and we could go inside the gym. But also, what I think a lot of you probably have heard out there, though, in professional sports, has in fact been, though, about essentially about, though, how in fact that things had, how in fact people were grouped, though. In regards to, who's allowed to go here, who's allowed to go there. So anyone tier one, of course, they are off limits in regards to basically that is the teams and the players and coaches, stay as far away from them as possible. But of course, I think if you folks remember a bit well, though, from from one of the programs that we actually did have, though, on the night shift, I actually showed you a picture of the office view, though, about some of the staff like myself being further away from the floor, though. I was, of course, because of COVID-19 issues, though. But, I mean, I think a lot of us out there agree, though, and I think if anyone out there had watched sports that were being played during the pro level, or at least at the pro level and even college level at the rate, though, the empty seats, of course, is what seriously sucked the most. I think a lot of us out there agree, though, that essentially seeing all these games going on, the fake noise and the fake noise, and of course with no one being in the stands, though, of course, is what really I think was the low point for everything going on in regards to how things had been. I mean, literally all you could hear, though, minus that the fake crowd noise, of course, is the shoes squeaking on the floor. You can hear the ball dribbling, of course, but. But the only, I think, great thing, though, or perhaps, consolation prize, essentially, with having no fans in the stands, though, was you were kind of able, though, to kind of hear a bit more of the some of the minutia, basically, that you probably don't hear a lot, though, because of the crowd volume inside of a stadium, though, is hearing the players talk to each other, kind of hearing, the communication, hearing the banter amongst the two teams. From the bench area, or for that matter, on the floor, and then hearing them drop the plays, though, and stuff like that. But I think the one, though, that was a bit interesting, though, was doing the remote broadcast at Point Loma Nazarene during basketball season. Essentially going to the gym, though, but calling the game not from courtside, but calling the game from the basically from a office building or an office space, and calling the game off the computer, much like we've seen, though, with TNT and ESPN, though, and trying out and having that challenge was pretty cool, though. I mean, I will say that the last couple of games, it was a little bit interesting, though, because I normally, if I do, in fact, do play-by-play, I don't have one headphone on so I can kind of hear myself and kind of keep the volume perhaps under control. But when a big play happens, you're obviously going to lose your mind, though, and stuff like that. But it was a bit strange, though, because a couple of times I was able to hear the basket being scored and hear Wes Mach, our PA guy in the gym, announced it, but I'm sitting in a office space, sitting in the gym, but on a delayed feed, like by 5 seconds or by 3 seconds though, but already and trying to not spoil that moment for the viewers at home because of it happening already where I was at, but it really didn't, but it of course did not happen over the course of the past over the course of the of it actually happening. And Christie agrees that seeing the empty seats in arenas like SoFi Stadium sucked. Ron Davis also says that UFC was a mind-blown grenade explosion. You know, I think I even said that, I think, Ron, on Twitter or on Facebook, was just hearing those shots, you know, hearing the punches land, the kicks land or whatnot, but hearing the smacking of the skin just radiate through that empty building was, I think, probably the more insane sport probably that was played without fans. I would throw hockey in there too, firsthand experience to myself as well. I'll get into that as well momentarily. And Ron also says that the sounds of a UFC fight with no fans were incredible at various times, as I alluded to again, and just hearing hearing all the strikes, hearing the kicks, the takedowns, the punches, hearing all of it basically, just again echo and radiate without the fans there to drown out, the shots because of the microphones picking up every intangible noise out there, was by far the one that was probably most intriguing sport to watch during the shutdown. And also Christie said that the WWE having the Thunderdome or the virtual audience was also unique. Christie, I believe that you and a good friend of mine, Brett Myers, were both a part of that experience. Can you perhaps write in the chat box about how, in fact, it was, though, for you as a wrestling fan, being able to be a part of that experience, though, but seeing the show live, but again, from a unique perspective? I'd love to hear more about that, because I know that a few of my wrestling friends, like Christie herself, were actually members of the Thunderdome. So I'd love to hear more about that from my wrestling friends out there. And also Ron says that even some of the ones that might be considered throwaway shots, like distant jabs and etc., were unreal. Again, just hearing them radiate throughout the course of the gym, around the arena, by far and in a way, just absolutely insane. But I do think, though, that by far and away, though, that the remote broadcast was kind of cool. But again, with some of the issues with like the delay between the feed and hearing it live in the gym, though, but not being able to report it right away because of there being no chance to get it in a timely manner, was probably the one that had to be a wee bit adjusted. But it was one that was pretty well done as time did go on, though. But of course, though, folks, the other one, the big one, though, for me, though, of course, was my time in the AHL with the San Diego Gulls, who chose to take the show on the road and play at the 5 Point Arena up in Irvine, California. And for 24 days out of the year this year, Irvine became my home away from home. That includes the 2 days of postseason play up there last Tuesday on my birthday and last Wednesday, with 3 games in 2 days. Is getting the chance to kind of live out working on the road. And yes, they were all home games, but again, not being played here in San Diego for health and safety reasons. And like I said, though, folks, about no fans in the building and being able to hear everything. And also for this year, I was not actually in my usual spot in the penalty box because of COVID measures in place, where I would have to be tested before every game and go up the day before the game, then come back home. They elected to move me out of the box this year, so I was actually working with fellow off-ice officials on the upper concourse of 5 Point Arena this season. And I know that a lot of announcers that are PA guys in hockey, I mean, believe me, I love my front row seat at ice level. But at the same time, though, we always say, though, that it's hard to watch the game when you lose the puck in the corners along where you sit. So they moved me up out of the box to the upper concourse, though. But being able to see the full game without having to look at the scoreboard or at a monitor. But if you want to talk about, folks, hearing every single sound, like a empty basketball game or an empty baseball game or an empty UFC fight, I mean, talk about hearing everything. And I mean, hearing the puck pop off the glass or pop off the boards or go off the iron or off the post and hear those hits. Yeah, they're loud, but I think it's just magnified by 1,000 hearing it without spectators in the building. but also, of course, going up there via public transportation and riding the Amtrak up, or having, hitching rides with coworkers, though, and staying overnight, doing all the safety precautions that had to be done, though. But I got to give everyone in our division, in the AHL Pac division, for 44 days or for 22 days in Irvine, they all deserve a round of applause and a major amount of respect, though. That minus one preseason game this year at home, I'm talking home games only one game, our first preseason game of the year, was the only game to be postponed because of a COVID-19 scare. Major props, major, a major shout out, a major congratulations to the entire division when they came to Irvine, that everybody was able to play their games, not have any issues. Sadly, we did have a couple of stoppages with other teams in our division, but a job well done by all organizations involved, though, to make this season really worth our while. Very condensed season. A condensed postseason is also going on, and it was again just minus the wins and losses. But again, I think a lot of credit has to go, though, to all 7 clubs in the Pacific Division for making this season basically go off without a hitch. Because sadly, a lot of our fellow counterparts, I should say, in the other divisions had a lot of their fair amount of stoppages. We had a couple of teams stop because of COVID, early in the year, parts of the year, and then one at the very end, though. But to all of our clubs, though, in the Pac division, again, a major shout out, and again, major props and respect for everyone for, again, doing their absolute best to make our season go off without a hitch this year. And again, a major thanks as well, though, to Great Park Ice for hosting the season, though, for us up there in Irvine, California. But if anything, folks, that probably was the one that sucked the most, though, for me personally, was the San Diego Sockers, the major arena soccer league team that I announced for. They chose to play their entire season on the road this year because of there being no fans and there being no revenue playing here in San Diego. And for a team, though, folks, that I have been with the longest, I got my first job. I was an intern helping out with game operations when I got out of high school in 2012, and I've been with them since the 2012-13 season, where they had won their most recent championship before this season. And and being with that club for as long as I have, though, and seeing, that drought, though, again, here's the San Diego Sockers, the probably one of the more well-known soccer franchises, indoor or outdoor soccer. Here they are not winning the championship every year like they did, though, back in the day. And for a year, though, where they had a lot of great free agents, so in a year, though, where they elect to play the entire season on the road and basically in modified bubbles in a few of the MASL markets who had fans play their season, and they get off to, and they have probably one of their worst regular seasons in a long, long time. But though, folks, as you probably know, teams that probably don't play well in the regular season, come playoff time, those teams know how to get the job done. And here the Sockers, I believe, went 4-6, had a losing record in the regular season, and basically, they had a very rough season. But come playoff time, though, the club knows how to get the job done. They get by Tacoma in 2 games, and then they knock off the top-seeded team, the Florida Tropics, in an epic 2-game set, though. Then play the rivals from Ontario, California, up in Ontario, looking for a chance to win their first title in 8 years. They win game 1. They lose game 2, and then, folks, usually in the playoffs, so when this happens, if they lose game 2 or the series is tied 1-1, they basically play an extra period or extra quarter of 15 minutes, though, but it's not sudden death. They play the full 15 minutes out, though. They fall behind, tie it up, and then they win the game with a game-winning goal with a minute left, though, and have a great defensive stand to win the game and finally get that first title in 8 seasons. And for a team, though, you want to talk about adversity in regards to seeing a team play a whole year on the road. Yeah, we saw the Toronto Blue Jays do that essentially in baseball last year, and for that matter, part of this season because of the border being closed up in Canada, the NHL going the route of the modified bubble, though. But a team, though, like that, getting it done, of course, was pretty insane. And again, props to the Sockers for that 15th indoor title at long last, and can't wait to see that banner get dropped in inside of Pechanga Arena, San Diego. next season. A couple of quick thoughts. Christy did write about her experience, though, going to the WWE Thunderdome. She said, Callan, for me, it was a very cool experience for me personally. You're really encouraged to bring the energy, whether you're watching Monday Night Raw or watching Friday Night SmackDown. I mean, and honestly, I know that, of course, though, folks, that we have seen teams have to be extremely creative, though, over the course of this season, in regards to maybe virtual fans or, announcers like myself didn't really have to read a lot of in-game reads this year because there was no fans to advertise stuff to. But, teams that make it work, entities that make it work, though, I'm glad to hear that it was a very good experience because I've seen some clips of it, though, and it just looks insane to see like all these people inside of the arena down there in Orlando having a great time and seeing all those fans in a way still be able to enjoy the show live. Yeah, they're watching virtually from home, though. But still, I think getting that experience, though, of live entertainment and live sports entertainment, I think, is exactly what we're looking for. And Tyler also says, Cal, I would find it difficult to perform a announcing job in a fanless hockey arena, mostly because I'd probably be laughing too hard hearing all the chirping between players. If I'm not, I only laugh. I very seldom laugh during those games. If I do laugh, though, Tyler, it's because I'm hearing the banter from the game ops crew I work with on my headset, and we're laughing about stuff and stuff like that. Basically, I laugh more about this sort of stuff than what was happening on the ice because we're cracking jokes, and stuff like that, and stuff of that nature. And David Frecker agrees that yes, that was extremely annoying, definitely for sure. And John Alcorn also agrees that it shows us we need to appreciate what we have because we don't realize what we have till it is taken away from us. And Mr. Chris Davis chimes in. He says, without a doubt, Cal, the NHL having a sense of humor about the fans in attendance was the best part outside the actual hockey of the bubble. I have to give props, Mr. Davis, to Jeff Kay, the PA guy for the Dallas Stars, who I think him and Wade Minter, the Hurricanes, were always big on doing the away goal calls on Twitter. And Jeff would always sign off by saying, please, use caution when walking from your living room to the kitchen. Obviously, we had, I think it was Edmonton or Toronto, I think, Chris, you may have to correct me. But one of the cities, though, had actual, like, osculating fans as the fans of the game. And they were, they do all these fan cams. And today's attendance is 0. I think the Ducks even did one, free beer at the concession stand. There's literally nobody in the building. So, I think that Chris is right, though, that, a lot of teams in a lot of leagues, though, to Chris's point, though, they had to find a way to have some fun. But I think though as well, though, and I think this goes to Chris's point, though, they had to be creative, though, but I think, though, still bring that atmosphere of it being a game. I like the Padres still playing the home run horn after they had those grand slams. They had Slam Diego, the fireworks after home runs, clinching the division title. You still have to bring, that it's an actual game, but it's just being done in a whole nother environment because of COVID-19. And Chris wanted to correct me. That was done with the actual oscillating fans done up in Edmonton at Rogers, Arena up there in Edmonton. And Tyler says, Callan, I can vouch for that. Being to a Dallas Stars game, Jeff Kay is one of the best in the business. I definitely agree, though. Of course, I admire and respect anybody who does the job for a living across every sport. And Jeff is by far one of the best out there in the NHL. All of them are great, though. And I have great admiration. And, I, of course, try to, talk to those guys every so often. But also, a lot of people probably know this or don't know this, but a lot of times when Chris and I do go to when Mr. Davis and I do go to games, we usually try to go and meet the announcers after the game. So we always try to talk to them about our experiences and stuff like that. We go for advice and also, network. That John Alcorn's a big believer about that. And it's something I've told him, though, about the industry, though, is it's more nowadays about, who you know and what you know. And that John, is kind of, learning about, those connections and stuff. And that, I think one of the last guys we got to meet, me and Chris, was our good friend Dave Joseph, who was formerly with the LA Kings and Ontario Reign right before the shutdown hit in March of last year. We played golf with a good friend of ours, too, Mike Gross, who's a fellow announcer and former softball coach at Olympian High here in San Diego. But that's, I think, the beauty, though, about, and I think, though, folks, as well, that even during the pandemic, though, last year, that was probably the beauty, though, about that time, though, was being able to maybe do a Zoom call though, but virtually network, virtually meet, do stuff like that. I remember hosting about 3 or 4 Zoom chats with fellow hockey announcers. And we had Wade Minter from the Hurricanes on, Kevin Clark with the Devils, John Trottier with the Senators, and also Chris wanted me did not want me to forget though about Michael Araujo, our good buddy, of course, who is the head guy in charge of PA for the Angels and the LA Galaxy of Major League Soccer. But that's usually what we try to do though, is try to get out there or get to games though, and try to meet the fellow voices that we perhaps have heard, at games that we've been to, but again, just more about anything else about networking and stuff of that nature. But again, folks, obviously though, in a very bizarre, a very crazy year, but with how things are going though, I cannot wait to have a live audience back inside of venues. I do though, folks, before we get to our final thoughts and wrap up for the night though, would be remiss though if I did not mention though that over the course of the season that we sadly lost 2 very amazing fellow colleagues, fellow friends of ours, and who we consider announcing family. Seth Smith and Dom Errico sadly passed away over the course of the season. Seth and I had a previous time working together at both Point Loma Nazarene University in our time at USD, and sadly Seth passed away very, very unexpectedly the night before a game that we were supposed to work together at USD for women's basketball. And his family has started a foundation in Seth's honor to help out with serving underprivileged athletes up in his neck of the woods of Orange County, California. And of course, our good friend Dom as well, who was the announcer for Duquesne Athletics, and also had experience as well doing indoor football and various other sports in the A10 conference. Dom sadly also lost his bout with COVID and pneumonia earlier in the year, and those 2 gentlemen have been in my thoughts and prayers throughout the course of this season, and they are sorely missed by the entire communities of sports here in San Diego, and also back with Duquesne Athletics and with the A10 conference. And I also want to give a shout to Sean Pebbles, the PA announcer for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who also Chris and I got a chance to hang out with in Burbank several months ago. Sean did a very amazing gesture for Dom's wife with providing her with a lot of the quotes that a lot of us announcers had shared about Dom and his, how he was with us and always giving us advice and always starting conversations and being there for advice and just being there to support their fellow broadcasters and fellow announcers. And Seth and Dom are sorely missed, and we will carry on their legacy for as long as we continue doing what we love doing the most. With that, though, folks, we'll wrap things up and get on into tonight's final thoughts. Wrapping up here, folks, on this soft reopen for the Sports Lounge coming your way, folks, here on this Tuesday after 132 days of being away from MI6 programming. Back with you, folks, and again, resuming our regular Sports Lounge coverage starting next Tuesday, back here on June the 1st, back here at 8 o'clock in the evening Pacific time. Again, had to push the start time back today just because of a few things going on here at the house. But again, everybody, as a reminder, we have our first major guest joining you folks here and joining me on the lounge here on June 15th, right from the USA Women's National Hockey Team and from the PWHPA. Haley Skamura will join us here on June 15th to talk all things about herself, her career, and of course her dad, Peter, who played for the Washington Capitals, but also as well talk about how things are going right now with the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association to kind of get a suitable league and a suitable league for women's hockey. And of course, we'll talk about her time too playing for Team USA, and also we'll get her thoughts as well about the upcoming tournament that they'll be playing in August, and also get her thoughts too about how, in fact, her time has been with the USA Women's National Team. And of course, want to send our well wishes as well real quick to Casey Bellamy and to Jocelyn and Monique Lamoureux, all 3 of those players announcing the retirements from the U.S. Women's National Hockey Team earlier in the year. Casey Bellamy also retiring just last Tuesday, if memory serves me correct, though. So we'll have Haley Skamura from the USA Women's National Hockey Team joining us, folks, in about 2 weeks, roughly 3 weeks at most, June 15th, 8 o'clock Pacific time, back here inside of the MI6 Sports Network. With that, though, folks, we'll see you back here again next Tuesday. Till next time, good night and bye-bye. Now that Phoenix has national, was taking their licks. Oh, it's by far the Clippers. Though, now, albeit without Kristaps Porzingis and that injury he suffered, though, get over the playoff hump. You're able to knock them. Oh my goodness, here we go again. And I think you need your best guy out there again. With Jazz upper brass for this house of COVID, covering up his eye after he's a home. That, guys, is the great 25 years. Finally, for one game. But Ja Morant is the truth. I am telling you, fellas.